How are we all doing? Well, today I am in Shetland. In fact, I'm on Unst, which is the most northerly island in the British Isles. It's as far north as you can go. You can probably hear a hooper swan in the background making some racket. And that's actually why I'm in Shetland, to film wildlife. I've been here already for a few days. I've seen orca, filmed orca, otters, all kinds of wildlife. Oh, there was a fish rising just then. So I'll be putting that out on the YouTube channel soon. I'm fishing on this loch. I don't exactly remember the name of it, but it's mainly for sea trout, which I have caught here before. Before we go into that though, I want to show you some of the sea fishing that I've been doing in Shetland. I'll quickly mention this as I did a bit of pier fishing, which is great fun in Shetland, but you just get bombarded with coalfish and I struggled to get through them, so I largely stuck to boats for my sea fishing. Rather naively, I thought I could just book a charter boat when I turned up to Shetland. It turns out there's only a handful of boats operating and most are booked up well over a year in advance, which, to put it bluntly, meant I was a bit fucked in terms of getting out to catch fish. However, plenty of people own boats in Shetland, so I was able to wriggle my way onto a couple. The first one was with Rich Shucksmith, who, apart from being a professional wind-up merchant, is also an incredibly talented underwater photographer and cameraman, who very kindly agreed to take me out to have a little fish, but also dropping the deep sea camera that I have, which you'll remember I used in an earlier episode in Oban. First we dropped the camera off in 30 metres of water, and then Rich went scuba diving to get some sand eel shots. It was a glorious day, especially as the weather can be temperamental at best in Shetland, so making the most of the sun was a must. We then drifted around to the island of Lochs, which has a huge seabird colony, mostly gannets, and as we started to fish, the formers came in to investigate. Not far behind were the bonksies, or great skewers, which recently have been hit hard by bird flu. Pretty quickly we got into fish, and Rich caught one of the species I was keen to get, a haddock. Fishing in 68 metres of water, it wasn't too big a shock to see one. Tried as I might, I couldn't tempt one to the hook. Tactics are rather simple here, a big bloody weight and a piece of mackerel, and away you go. Although the fishing wasn't brilliant, the camera did pick up some really interesting shots. The seabed was covered in urchins and brittle stars, as well as some lesser spotted dogfish coming in, a ling passing the camera, and a flapper skate. I was so chuffed to see this fish come in, and it was so big it lifted the whole camera rig up. If I'm honest, I'm just as happy seeing the skate like this as I would be catching it, and it was an amazing creature to see come in. I still had an itch to scratch though, failing to get any new species, so my friend Josh, who's a wildlife guide in Shetland, managed to arrange with Duncan, a local boat owner, to take us out on his boat for a bit of a species hunt. I'll be honest, the start of the trip was bloody lumpy, and although my sea legs are okay, me and Josh were feeling a bit worse for wear. Duncan, however, was having a great time. It's funny though that seasickness mysteriously goes away when you start catching fish, and I got my first ever cod along with a whiting. The weather started to improve and so did the fishing, with a dogfish coming up soon after. With the tides being more favourable, we headed for the iconic cod site, Muggle Flugger, which, to be honest, I wasn't sure we'd reach on this day, but we gunned for it. On the way there was a sandy patch, so we dropped the baits down and soon enough caught a stunning red gurnard. It can be a bit confusing, as all gurnards in the UK can appear red, but the red gurnard is the most vibrant of the bunch. Soon after, Josh caught a grey gurnard, and Duncan also followed up with one. They're a bit more spotty than the previous fish. Gurnards will grunt when disturbed, though these ones were fairly silent. Hitting into another bite, I soon got one of the species I was really keen for, a haddock. Not one, but two. Being a cold water species, it was high on my list, as they're a tricky shore species to catch, and many of the charters I've been on in the past say there's little chance of seeing one. Haddock are similar to cod, but have a much smaller mouth, don't get anywhere near as big, and have got a distinctive black thumbprint above the dorsal fin, which is sometimes called the devil's thumbprint or St. Peter's Mark. The scenery was incredible, with mist rolling off the hills and the sun was out in full force now. We even had a couple of porpoises pass by the boat. We then headed out to the deeper water to try for something bigger. My hope was for a halibut, which Duncan has caught before and handed me a lure he's had one on. I thought he was taking the piss. This looked like a Christmas decoration, not something a fish could take, but I lowered it down and immediately something slammed into it. One thing I'll say about deep water charter fishing is by the end you're hoping not to get a bite. It's knackering bringing fish up. It was clear that whatever this was, it was the biggest fish of the day.
Have you got that camera going?
Yeah.
You have got it going?
I got it going, yeah.
Make sure it's pointing the right way.
There you go. Jesus Christ. Well, this will be fun coming through this, won't it?
That's alright. So I've been back and forth with that.
Yeah.
Dozens times. I just rocked a bit now. It's right at the same again, it's right on the edge, it's a bit.
Yeah.
It looks worse than it is.
Yeah.
Way down, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they're only on 28 metres.
28 metres? Alright.
That's not, is it? There you go, got colour. Another cod. Whoa, fucking hell.
Bigger than that one?
I think so.
Jesus! Look at the head on that!
It turned out to be a cod, which we estimate around £15, but again, I'm shit with fish weights, so it may have been bigger. Comment down below if you think you know any better. Cod can get 3 times the size of this here. It looked a bit gory with the blood, but we're fishing for the pot today, so we tried to get fish on the boat and dispatched as quickly as possible. I always get asked if I eat fish. I don't eat that much fish, not on ethical grounds, it's just I'm not a huge fan of the taste, but I do occasionally enjoy it if it's really fresh, and you can't get much fresher than this. So we, and by we I mean Duncan, cut up the whiting, mackerel, cod, haddock and coalfish up into fillets. When we got home, we put it all into a fish pie. Don't worry, this isn't turning into a cookery channel, but we were using some white sauce, peas, mashed potatoes. It was fantastic. Some of the best fish I've ever eaten. Anyway, let's get back to the freshwater fishing now. There are plenty of lochs in Shetland with brown trout mostly, though one does have char. I could see fish rising and cast out towards them with a tiny lure and got a fish on the hook, but what was it?
I'm going to have a look at the footage for that, but I think that was a salmon parr. I don't think that was a sea trout. Now, it's not that surprising that there's a salmon parr in here, because I don't know if you can see behind me, but there's a load of salmon farming cages, which are everywhere in Shetland. Let's not go into that debate. But a few of them obviously get loose. There isn't really a salmon fishery in Shetland. There's no big rivers, so if you catch a salmon, it's almost certainly a farm one. So I suspect that's just a little one that's got loose. That is only the second salmon I've ever caught. I will do a proper video on salmon fishing, don't worry, I'm not going to kind of count that one. But technically, if I'm struggling, I might do. But it is technically a salmon. So, you know, there are fish in here. I've seen fish rising. Not seen any sea trout as of yet. There's the odd bigger splash, which I assume are sea trout. But what a glorious day. You can't beat this, can you?
I kept fishing for a bit longer and not a lot was happening, so I decided to call it a day and maybe go see if I could find some birds or otters.
Well, perhaps not that surprisingly, I didn't catch a sea trout. They are in here, they're just not biting, never mind. Shetland is an incredible place, it's well worth it for the wildlife watching, and why not bring a rod as well just to see what you can catch. Hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know what species should I go after in the next video down in the comments. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, liking the video and subscribing to the channel really helps me out. But you can also donate to my buymeacoffee.com link, and all the money from that goes back into making new films for the YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. You can check out some other videos in the links here. Also check out my website and social media, as well as the podcast that I host, the Bearded Tits Podcast. Cheers.